welcome everybody to the launch of Cassandra's fourth novel. I know it's not your fourth book, but it's your fourth novel, yeah. Which is called The Winter's Child, and I have to admit it's my favourite so far, and I'm not just saying that because I've been saying that to all the people when you're not there, in absolute truth.
Oh, thank you.
That it's my favourite so far. So the first thing I'm going to do, just to give you a little teaser, is I'm going to read the blurb, and then I'm going to quickly read my Amazon review of it, if that's okay with you.
Lovely, thank you.
Okie dokie, so The Winter's Child. 5 years ago, Susanna Harper's son Joel went missing without a trace. Bereft of her son and then of her husband, Susanna tries to accept that she may never know for certain what has happened to her lost loved ones. She has rebuilt her life around a simple, selfless mission to help others who, like her, must learn to live without hope. But then, on the last night of Hull Fair, a fortune teller makes an eerie prediction. She tells her that this Christmas Eve, Joel will finally come back to her life. And as her carefully constructed life begins to unravel, Susanna is drawn into a world of psychics and charlatans, half-truths and hauntings, friendships and betrayals, forcing her to confront the buried truths of her family's past, where nothing and no one are quite as they seem. So my little review went as follows. Wow. I have always loved Parkin's books. By the way, we always call writers by their surname, don't we?
You and I call you Beech.
Yeah, Parkin.
She's If I make it obvious to my friend, they'll just get rid of my review like they did before. So.
Yeah, because Amazon are quite bad at the minute, where if they think,
aren't they?
if you review a book and they think you know them, they'll often take them down, won't they, and remove them. So yeah, Parkin's books. I've always loved Parkin's books, have read every single one, but oh, this is a treat. I didn't think it possible that she upped her game, but she has. All her usual talents are present and accounted for. Beautiful prose, thoughtful and real characters, gorgeous story. But this one is darker, twistier and utterly addictive. Watch out, world, this one should be huge.
Oh, thank you.
So the first thing that I wanted to ask you about, which absolutely fascinated me, is the dedication at the beginning of the novel where you mention, I believe it was a gypsy or somebody in Scarborough who gave you a prediction, and the fact that you open with that. So is that what initially inspired the book?
What happened, this was about, a long time ago when I was 16 and I'd gone to Scarborough. With my boyfriend, we'd gone. I used to play in the City Youth Orchestra, and we used to do like a little tour of Scarborough, Withensea and Bryd every summer. And we were walking along on the seafront, and this gypsy woman just came out of nowhere, and she grabbed me, and she started muttering like right in my face, and she told me that my boyfriend would put a ring on my finger very soon, and that I would live to the age of 95, which was nice to hear. 3 weeks later, he did actually buy me a little ring, like a little gold snake ring. I've still got that. I haven't still got the boyfriend, but I think I kept the best bit of that. So kind of in my head, I am going to live to 95. So far I have. She's not wrong yet. And it kind of, I find it so strange because rationally I know she was just somebody who made their living by being a bit weird on Scarborough Pier and calling people out the pound. But somehow in my heart, everything she said was true, and I believed it. And The Winter's Child really kind of came from that place of, oh, hi Max. Hiya, it's the other Lisa, yay! Hi Jules. That's all right. Where was I going with that? Yes, so it's sort of about that place where you know it can't be true, but you also know that it is. And I think most people have had at some point in their lives the experience of something that you know rationally there's an explanation. You know, she just wanted a quid, but my heart just instantly said, yes, you're right, he is going to buy me a ring, and then he did. And I'm going to live to 95, and I really will.
So really, do you think she just read you, possibly, and got clues from you? Because that's apparently what people say the charlatans do. They read you and take the information that you've said, and
absolutely,
they kind of feed it back to you, and they can see in your eyes whether you're responding to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of techniques, and Darren Brown is brilliant for this. If anybody, you ever get a chance to see his stage show live, he's just terrifying, because the whole time he's saying, I can't read your mind. I cannot communicate with the dead. And if I could communicate with the dead, do you really think they'd come and talk to me? They'd come and talk to you directly. They wouldn't get someone that's been paid to, But then at the same time, I've seen him look into somebody's face and tell them the most incredibly specific details about somebody who they loved who had died. And I think, well, what's weirder? That you can divine that by looking at their shoes, or that you might actually be able to contact them, and neither of those explanations makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I love to play with that in my fiction, that idea of things that cannot be true and yet they absolutely are true.
Yeah. Did you do a lot of research aside from the initial inspiration of The Lady in Scarborough? Did you, while you were writing this, go and see any other psychics or anything like that?
I did go down to, you know where the Arctic Corsairs moored up by the River Hull? And I went down with my notebook and I was sort of writing notes, and some student said, "Hey, you all right?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "What are you doing?" And I said, and without thinking, I said, "I'm planning a murder." And he said, "Oh, right." And so I wandered off again. So that was my best bit of research.
Because I was going to ask if you changed your opinion when writing the novel about whether any psychics. Because personally, I believe some people are psychic, but I believe there are a lot of con artists out there who make money from it.
I think the difficult thing is when the psychic themselves believes that they can do it, because somebody that is knowingly, visibly conning you, it's very easy to spot. But somebody who thinks themselves, yes, I can do it. And I honestly don't know. I mean, I kind of had to, because Susanna's in exactly that place of believing and yet not believing, and she desperately wants it to be true. I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, most people have had experiences that you can't explain. And when I was about 16, our phone had this weird intermittent fault, and we got the engineer out, and the engineer said, "Yeah, right, it's a poltergeist. You got a teenage girl in the house." And then that was it. That's what he wrote down on the fault sheet: poltergeist, brackets, teenage girl. And I was like, I've haunted the phone. And apparently it happens often enough that they just sort of accept that as a thing that is true. So.
Well, I can believe that, because they do say that it's telephones that the dead can link into. And I remember when I was at school, I think it's more old-fashioned ones with the wire, seriously, ones that we would have had. Because I do know when I was doing Ouija boards with my friends at school, which we shouldn't have been doing, our phone used to ring all the time. And when you picked it up, it would still be ringing when you had it off the hook.
That's how ours did.
It was really creepy.
And then the other thing that would happen was that it would sort of just not work for days and days, and then like you say, it would ring and ring and ring, and you pick it up and it would just keep ringing.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
We were just haunted.
Yeah, it's a writerly thing.
Yeah.
So The Winter's Child is definitely twistier, turnier, still your beautiful prose, but was that intentional? Because obviously quite a popular genre currently are the psychological thrillers, the domestic noir, with all the twists and turns, which a lot of books, sadly, which I don't personally like this, they put on the front, don't they?
You won't believe the twist.
Yeah, you won't see it coming.
Which is just guaranteed.
Because I'm looking for it now.
Yeah.
So was it intentional, or did you just happen to fall into that genre? I mean, even though I still don't think your book is a genre book, though, because of the beauty of it.
I think because, like you say, there's so many books like it at the moment, and it's so very zeitgeisty to have, you know, kind of the big reveal. There probably was a little bit of that in there, but I think what really influenced me was the tradition of the ghost story, you know, especially sort of the very high Gothic Victorian ghost story, where you can kind of see where it's going, and you know that at some point they're going to go into the Red Room and something dreadful is going to happen, or the woman in black is going to appear and somebody is going to die. So it's not that you don't know what's coming, it's just that it's so dreadful in the build-up. And I think that was kind of, because quite a few reviewers have said that they could see where the story was going, but they enjoyed it anyway, which was kind of what I was going for.
Yeah, I actually prefer it when that happens, because number one, you feel a little bit smug and good, because you think, I knew this was going here. Yeah. But I think it's more satisfying, rather than somebody just pulling a card out at the last minute and you're thinking, oh, well, that doesn't fit, that hasn't... And
I think especially, I find it a bit frustrating when the protagonist deliberately lies to you. And I mean, sometimes it's cool, you know, it was amazing in Gone Girl, but so many times when the protagonist says, oh yeah, did I not mention? No, you didn't.
And by the way,
that's not really on. You know. So I kind of almost wanted that feeling that the reader knows what's happened before Susanna does, because she, you know, but sort of so much of her story is that she wants to know, but she doesn't want to know. She wants to open the door, but she doesn't want to open the door, and she's not quite ready yet to look behind and see what would really happen.
And I was just as afraid of knowing as she was. I felt that in the book. I was like, I want to know, but I kind of also don't want to know.
And that was the feeling that I really wanted to capture, because my mum actually knew somebody whose son had gone missing and had never been found. You know, not a trace. He just vanished when he was, I think he was maybe 18, and he just went, and they never found him. And so she had to live her whole life. And she said, in a lot of ways, she knew in her heart that he was probably dead, because, you know, he wouldn't have just gone otherwise. You know, they'd had their problems, but, you know, it wasn't the situation where he was just going to vanish for a good reason. But at the same time, she was almost hoping that he wouldn't be found, because then she would think, well, maybe he might come back.
Because it's final, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you find
because almost
final.
always after somebody's been gone for a certain amount of time, realistically, it probably is that they've come to harm.
Yeah.
And as long as that you don't know that that's what's happened, you can think, well, you know, maybe today. And yet at the same time, she's torturing herself.
I was going to say, it must be the most dreadful place to be in, to want to hope, but then also want an answer, even though that answer might be bad.
Yeah.
Just horrible,
Yeah, and just the
horrible.
feeling of, you know, am I wishing them dead? Is that what I'm thinking? Am I
Yeah.
thinking, I wish my son was dead?
Yeah.
That's
And
pretty
I
dark,
was going to
isn't it?
say, you really did nail that in there.
Oh, thank you.
It's a quite complicated book this time as well, with the twisted turniness. So I know that you plot. So I'm asking the question
Yeah.
I know, because I've seen the photos of your
Oh,
post-it
yes,
notes
yeah,
everywhere.
post-it notes and sheets of paper.
Was this the most difficult to plot, and was that enjoyable?
The timeline was the hardest to get. Before that, I would have said the beach hut, because that was set on a beach, and I had to get out a timetable and double check that, you know, the moon was in the right phase and the tide was in at the right time, and people were going to get stuck in the places where I said they were stuck, and, you know, all those things. But this one was so hard, because it's sort of, it's basically each pair of chapters is the same date, but in the present, and then the same date, but a number of years ago.
Of course, yeah.
And
yeah.
making sure that I got the right years, and it was a school day on the days that I needed it to be,
Yes.
and a weekend on the days that I needed it to be, and whole fair was there on the day, and it was a bit of a beast to plot, and then figuring out, you know, exactly when Joel's birthday was, so how old would he be, and
Yeah.
you know what would we, so yeah, there was quite a lot of sort of muttering and tearing up of bits of paper. And
Do you ever find that something really gorgeous happens sometimes when you're doing that, where, say for example, if there's a certain scene that you've written and you're thinking it needs to be an eclipse, do you ever have it where when you research it, it happens that there was at that moment? Have you ever had that in your writing?
Yeah, like the spring tide being exactly where I needed it to be on the right day. That was, yes, this really happened, and that's a sign from the universe. That,
I take it as a sign that
Yeah.
yes, I'm on the right page, I'm doing the right scene at
Because
the
you
right
have
time.
that feeling that actually when you're writing, you're not creating anything at all. You're just
It already
discovering
exists.
Yeah, and your job isn't to make it up.
Yeah, definitely. It does
Yeah.
in my head. Yeah, it already exists.
Yeah, because I've started my next book, and I wasn't really ready to write it, and the problem was that I hadn't got that illusion. I knew that it was me making it up, and that was, you know, when I threw away 40,000 words of it.
I remember you saying.
Yeah, and it was like, oh my gosh, you can't do that. But it was such a relief, because my heart was in it, because I didn't have that feeling of this is real.
That's incredibly brave though, to write 40,000 words and just get rid of them.
Oh, you didn't see them. They weren't happy words. They were just making me more and more miserable the more I wrote. I was like, this is dreadful.
Would you like to give us your first
Oh,
reading?
yes, I will. So we're slightly in the future. In the warm cigarette dimness of the caravan, the Roma woman's eyes are shrewd and bright. You've lost someone, she says. We gaze watchfully at each other across a table of polished glass, etched with a cornucopia of flowers. Its beveled edge is sharp to the sight, but not to the touch. I'd imagined the inside of a traditional Vardo, painted woods and bright patchworks, but instead I'm surrounded by glass and china and crystal, intermittently set ablaze by the lights of the carriages that dip and wheel above our heads. The cabinet behind my opponent is filled with china girls with arms like ballerinas, waists no wider than their necks, and frothing intricate skirts. Do all showmen live in this impossible, delicate luxury? How do they take their homes from place to place without breakages? The fortune teller is looking right into my eyes, watching and waiting for a tell. I force myself to sit cool and blank, trying not to be distracted by the fragments of my reflection, blonde hair, blue eyes, slim figure, that appear startlingly distorted and inverted in the million reflective surfaces of this caravan. If my sister Melanie finds out what I've been doing, she'll be furious. I'm supposed to have given this game up years ago. I shouldn't be here. A husband, maybe. The fortune teller shakes her head. No, not a husband. I keep my breathing slow and quiet, in and then out, refusing to let her see the satisfaction that this gives me. In fact, I have lost a husband, or rather, my ex-husband and I have lost each other, torn apart by the brutal tragedy that ripped through our life like a tornado. When we first married, I imagined that losing John would break my heart. When it finally happened, we were both too exhausted to summon more than a weary acceptance. Boyfriend, then. I imagine I can feel the caress of her eyes as they flick, flick, flick over my face like the smooth, dry kiss of a snake's tongue, looking for the micro-expressions that will tell her she's on the right lines. No, not a boyfriend. Next, she'll change tack completely. She'll go for an easy hit, so I'll forget about the missus. You've come to the fair since you were a child, she says. You've loved it all your life. I see you in a hat and coat, holding the hand of a tall man and laughing. I try not to snort. She'll know from my accent that I'm a local girl. And what else does she need to know to guess how deeply Hull Fair is lodged in my heart? Fair Week is the darkest and most beautiful spell our city casts. A residential street and a patch of showground suddenly ablaze with the showman's last wild gathering before they disperse into a mysterious continental winter. And we all hunker down and wait for the more respectable follow-up of Christmas. Sorry, I might be about to sneeze. I'm not overcome with the beauty of my own words. No, it's fine. I see you coming here as an adult too, she continues. There's a child with you. I see a little boy in a blue coat riding on a train. When he gets frightened and cries, you buy him a stick of candy floss. More easy hits. Not half an hour ago, I lifted my nephew Thomas out of the ghost train and I held him tight, trying not to laugh at his wild terror of the man who jumped out at us and rocked the carriage on its tracks. It's all right, I told him over and over. It was just one of the guys from the ride. See, look there, and you'll see him do it again. Now, shall we get some candy floss? And 3 minutes later, Thomas's fright is melting stickily on his tongue among the threads of spun sugar. A scene played out thousands of times each night. Perhaps she even watched me, or had one of her fellow showmen watch me, so she'd have something in her pocket to dazzle me with. Perhaps they watch all of us. Nonetheless, her words conjure another, more tender memory. Washing Joel's face in the dim light of the bathroom while John put the car back in the garage. I can still hear the highs singing in our ears as they rang to the echo of the pounding music. I can still see the tracks of tears on his cheeks, the sweet pink crust around his mouth. A child, that's it, a child. You've lost a child.
Was it intentional to release the book around the time of Hull Fair, or is that just a glorious coincidence?
I did sort of beg my publishers a little bit and said, it starts on the night of Hull Fair, so if we could possibly have it come out around about then, that'd be great. So yes, it was...
it's just beyond perfect, isn't it?
It's just lovely, yeah. But the one thing is that the weather is going to wildly diverge, I think, from the weather we're actually going to have, because I was kind of wishing for like a really nice cold Christmas, so it's a very cold book.
Of course it is, yeah, an icy book, yeah. And yet we've got this mild weather of like 15 degrees.
Yeah, which is not Hull Fair weather. It's just not, it's not right, is it?
Back in the day, I don't know about you, but I always remember when we were at school that we knew that when Hull Fair week came, that was get your big coat out week.
Yeah, because you could smell it in the air, and that was it was Hull Fair weather.
Exactly,
yeah.
because of the weather.
You know, don't you? Oh, right. Yeah, Hull Fair weather, it's totally, can we all tell Roger, Hull Fair weather, it's a thing, right? Yeah.
So, I know we talked a little bit earlier about plotting, but did you 100% know the ending when you began? Because when I was reading, there was a moment, I can't remember now when it was, I did read it 2 months ago, when I felt that there was a turning point where you could have gone one way or another, and I don't want to say too much.
I think I know the point that you mean.
Yeah. Did you know, or did you decide at that point, did you always know?
I knew from the start
Right.
what it was that had happened to Joel and
Yeah.
why. But I did want to sort of leave the possibility open
Okay.
so that Susanna could continue to sort of question.
Do you enjoy writing? I know this is we really don't want to ruin this book. Do you enjoy writing more when you know there's that option to change it if you need that freedom?
I never change the ending ever.
Do you
I always
not?
know the ending.
Wow.
Even the thing that I never know is how to get there. I really like David Lynch's films because he has this one shot that he always has where it's basically a car driving down a road quite fast at night, and all you can see, you can sort of, it's like an in-car shot, and you can see the camera wobble, and you can see like maybe 15 feet in front of you, and the car always knows where it's going, but all you can see is that little bit of highway, and it could go off to the left or it could suddenly run out of road, and that's kind of how I feel when I'm writing. I know that I'm supposed to be Detroit or wherever it is that I'm going, but actually getting there it's a mystery. All I know is what the end point looks like.
Wow. That's just amazing. I've never had an ending to a book, definitely.
Really?
No.
Do you just sort of dive in and see where it
go
goes?
and see what happens. Yeah. That's interesting. I suppose you're still not working to a confine though, because like you say, it's how you get there.
Oh yeah, and
I
there's
suppose
always
the
a bit
story is.
Yeah, I mean you'll know this. There's always a bit in the middle when one of the characters says, like, "Excuse me, I'm actually quite important," and you're like, "Oh, no, I thought you were just background filler." And here you are in the middle of things, and that always happens, or else somebody won't do what you want them to do, or they
That's
refuse.
it, yeah. I think some of my favourite scenes did involve Joel.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's missing, but obviously, there are scenes with him.
In the past. Yeah.
He just leapt out of the page at me, and it was kind of very moving and achingly sad, the scenes with him, but in the most wonderful way. Was that hard to write?
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you'll know this, if you're writing about something happening to a child, there's always this feeling that you're tempting fate, and that the universe is watching, and that if you've had the cheek to write about something dreadful happening to a child, just maybe you're kind of inviting it into your own life.
I thought, weird, totally feel that. I tend to make children in my books a bit younger than my own, so that it can't
so
possibly.
It can't happen.
It's weird. Yeah. Wow. Although they were hard to write, the challenge must have been good though. And did you have a certain child in mind? Did you use any aspects of children that you know?
It was the boy that I knew at school actually, who was sort of quite vulnerable, and he'd come through the care system. Well, we think he had. Obviously you never know for sure, do you? But we kind of heard on the grapevine, as kids do, that he'd come through the care system, and I don't know what happened to him actually, but he was quite troubled, I think it's fair to say, but he wasn't. Some people you meet and you think, well, you're just awful, and I don't think any of us ever felt that this boy was awful. He was just somebody who'd had a really tough paper round, as we say, and he was sad. But you not heard that one?
No.
There we
Tough
go.
paper
Tough
round.
paper round.
The one with the biggest bag and the most newspapers and the highest bills to go up. Yeah. I also did want to mention the cover, because the cover, I think I was just talking with Tracy earlier, is absolutely stunning. It's one of my favourite covers. We were trying to decide if it was sparkly with the snow.
Yeah, it's actually the first time I've got my hands on it. I've only got my proof copy, which obviously just has a big version. So this is the first time I've seen the actual really cover in the flesh.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much of an input with your publisher then do you get with deciding the cover? And did you know immediately that was the one?
Yeah, Legend of Grey. I think Arenda do the same thing for you, don't they? Where they send a number of options, and they kind of say, which ones do you like, and ask around your friends, and then they sort of ask around their office as well. Thank goodness we've always agreed on the one that we liked. It was a conversation if I liked one that they didn't. But yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's it. That is my cover. That's what it's meant to be.
Is it your favourite one? Of all your books, I mean.
That's like a favourite child, isn't it? I don't have a favourite child. You can both relax.
They asked you earlier, actually.
Yeah, but Ben was practice interviewing me, and that was his question: who's your favourite child?
And do you like alphabet spaghetti?
Yes, that's Ben's brilliant interview.
I don't think, did you answer that?
I do like alphabet spaghetti.
You just stole my
best
question. I was going to ask you that next. Do you like liver?
No. I like my liver. It's quite useful. I don't think I want to eat anybody else's.
Another interesting thing, like I've read the blurb, and there's what I think it's about, and all readers form their own opinions, obviously, what a book's about, and a synopsis sums it up to hook readers. For you, what was this book about?
I think it was about being haunted, actually. It was about being stuck in a moment that you can't get away from, and being haunted by things that might have happened. So a lot of what Susanna is imagining, a lot of what Susanna experiences, she's sort of quite frightened by it, mainly because she doesn't know if it's real. And the thought, if you have a supernatural experience, she has a number of terrifying supernatural experiences, and the thought that frightens her the most is, what if this is just my head? What if there's something wrong with me? And I'm actually just coming apart at the seams? Because terrifying though it would be to see a ghost, it would be much worse to think, well, I've just made that ghost up, this is my own brain turning on me. So that's what I thought it was about. It was about what is it actually like to be haunted by someone that you love.
Yeah, the husband was a really well done character, because obviously in some psychological books, which yours isn't, it's genreless, there are the typical bad guy, good guy, like, for example, a lot of things that are on TV at the minute, like Dr. Foster, which I am loving and I'm hooked on, they often have like the bad guy, the good guy.
Yeah.
forgot what the question was going to be now. That's it, yeah. You never have that in your books. All of them are real people, flawed, with great qualities. And the husband, I think that was done exceptionally well, because he was the biggest mystery, almost more than Susanna and almost more than where Joel was. Because I was never quite sure what to make of him, but in a good way. You did that so well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, John was really interesting to write because sort of the kind of the defining feature, I think, of Joel and Susanna and John's relationship is, have you ever been asked that awful question about if your husband and your children were drowning, who would you save?
Yeah.
And you know, obviously it's the children, except that for John, it's Susanna. And
I
that's
think most
like
men would say that.
Yeah.
I do. I shouldn't say most men.
I don't know, actually.
Some men. Maybe we should put it to the audience.
Yeah, who would save their children and who would save their husband or wife?
I don't have either.
What do you do?
Your sister or your mum?
I'm sorry, Becky.
No, you save your sister.
Kids first.
Kids first,
Fair
yeah.
enough then. Actually, parents would all probably say that, but I suppose they are all parents, so...
Yeah.
Whichever one you told me to.
Depends how old they are as well, and who's irritated you the most recently.
But that was sort of like the basic imbalance. Oh, that's dreadful.
No, I'm joking.
No, I know you are. In John and Susanna's life is that she wants him to put Joel first, and he does, but not in that kind of obsessive way that she does. You know, from the moment that that Joel comes into their life, she is just completely consumed with him.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I think makes John quite an interesting character, or certainly made him interesting to write, is that Susanna always believes that she knows best. She never doubts herself. And the only times when she actually thinks, oh my God, what if John's right? What if John knows best? What if I'm messing this up and that's why Joel is how he is? Maybe we should try John's way. Every now and then, like, the sort of chink of light will come in. She'll think, no, maybe actually John does know best. And then she always rationalises that, no, he's just shouting the loudest. It's just because he's stronger than me that he's making me think that. But that's always sort of the doubt for her, is that actually she's so sure that she's right that when she thinks that she might be wrong, it's just absolutely devastating for her.
Yeah, because it's very real, powerful, and the fact that they kind of reared Joel a little bit differently, because that happens in so many marriages and families, doesn't it, where parents, no one's right or wrong, it's just that some parents do one thing one way and the partner might do it another way, and that can cause huge clashes, can't it? If one's, say, disciplinarian, one isn't, and yet no one's right or wrong.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest things, I think, as a parent, is that moment when you think, well, I know what I'm supposed to do, which is to back my partner, but at the same time, my partner is clearly wrong, so what's the right thing here? And you know, I think every parent and the heat of the moment, I must admit, there have been plenty of times when I've gone the wrong way and said, no, actually, mummy's in charge here, and you're you can do what I say and ignore daddy, which, I hope I don't do that too much, but I think it's so tempting to do that and then just take the consequences afterwards. That's my husband there, shaking his head.
Would you like to do another reading?
Oh, yes, I will. Is where Susanna is completing a weekly ritual of cleaning Joel's room, and she does this every week. She goes in and changes his bedding and tidies his room and dusts everything, and it's when she's just at the very start of the experience of being haunted. I blink several times, trying to make the illusion in the mirror disappear. It remains stubbornly visible. Scrapdog, Joel's best beloved, his constant bedtime companion. Scrapdog cannot possibly be there. Scrapdog cannot be there because Scrapdog went everywhere with Joel, hidden in his backpack even as a teenager. The two of them vanished together. Careless of the smear I will make, I lean my forehead against the mirror and close my eyes, count to 10. It's a flaw in the glass, a strange artefact from the sunlight in my eyes. When I open my eyes again and look, Scrapdog will be gone. I open my eyes. In the reflection, Scrapdog's gleaming black button eye stares blankly back at me from his spot on the pillow. Right, I say out loud. My voice is so loud that I feel as if I might have broken something. It's a fold in the cover, a duster I've left there that's somehow fallen into an evocative shape, a simple delusion. I turn around and glare at the bed, daring Scrapdog to still be there. Scrapdog's eyes still shine glossily when the light catches them. His head flops to one side as if someone has wrung his neck, and across his belly I can see the wobbly imperfection of the seam that split along the furry patches that make up his body, stitched back shut by me long ago. This is going on too long. I don't think my heart can stand it. I make myself go towards the bed, force myself to reach out to grasp the toy's warm body. He won't be there. I'll reach out and clutch empty air, and Scrapdog will vanish. My hands close around the rigid, stiff shape of his muzzle. Strange contrast to the limp floppiness of his body. Why isn't he disappearing? Why is he still here? Is he an early Christmas gift? The first harbinger of the only thing I really want? My hands clutch him tight, too tight. If I'm not careful, I'll tear him in half. How can this be happening? I bring Scrapdog slowly up to my face, press him against my mouth and nose, and take a deep breath. The scent of mud is overwhelming. The floor tilts and sways beneath my feet like a funhouse. I reach out one hand to try and steady myself, but there's nothing between me and the drop. I'm falling through empty space towards cold, dark water, and now I'm choking, spluttering, drowning. I try to breathe, but my mouth and nose are plugged shut. All I can feel is the pain of trying to breathe and failing, and a thick clog of vomit rises in my throat, but it has nowhere to go, because the mud and water are overwhelming, and I can't breathe, and I'm choking to death, and no one will find me and help me. This is the end. Only Scrapdog is here to watch me as I drown. Only Scrapdog with his black button eyes gazing sorrowfully down at me from some high place where an angry giant holds him by the neck and watches pitilessly as I fall and fall, down and down and down. My eyes open, my hands clench tight. Then my muscles turn weak, and whatever I'm holding onto falls away from me, and the mud's gone, and now I can throw up, a great plume of vomit that arcs across the carpet like the spume of a whale, and I fall forward onto my hands and knees and gasp and choke and whoop and retch some more, letting gravity empty the vileness from my mouth, feeling as if I'm coughing up the contents of my whole body onto the carpet, and with each heave comes a splatter of words that ring in my ears. Mummy, where are you? Please help me, where are you? I need you.
Oh, I loved Scrapdog, because everybody's got a Scrapdog, haven't they? And every child's got a Scrapdog.
Yeah, everybody has a special lovey that is theirs.
Oh, yeah, I've completely forgotten. Yeah, my daughter had a piglet, and she's 17 now, and she still secretly sometimes sleeps with him.
Yeah.
I still sometimes make her bed in the morning when she's gone to school and Piglet's under the pillow.
Oh.
And she once told me it's not so much Piglet, it's the lump of him under the pillow, and
Yeah.
the knowing that he's there. And he's got no legs now, and his eyes have fallen off, and he's just a head and a body.
Oh. Is it the Velveteen Rabbit that says that's when you become real? There is a story about a toy that said that the process of kind of wrecking them is a process of making them real.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's very real then.
Yeah. No arms and no legs.
So you're a writer that does defy conventional genres, but are there any that you've yet to write? Because I know you've told me a few times that you fancy writing young adult.
Yeah, I've had this young adult book haunting me for about 10 years now, I would say, and I've never quite got to it because it's the one that I'm going to do when my publisher doesn't want me anymore. And I can just
well, that's never going to happen then, Cassandra.
Well, I kind of hope not, touch wood. I think it's just sort of like a project that I can think, well, if it ever does happen, it won't be the end of the world because then I can write this book. But yeah, I would love to write young adult one day.
I can see you doing that. What would it be, like a sci-fi one, or?
I think it would probably be best to describe it as a realistic superhero novel. I really like the idea of superheroes, but I also think it would just be the most massive pain to have one in town. You're just like, well, I'll be fine, superhero, I'll fix it. Don't need to worry about the kids, he's looking out for them, it'll all be all right. But yeah, so that's kind of my dream novel that I might write one day.
And what hopes do you have for this book? I mean, I know what hopes we all have. We all want to win the competitions and do the bestsellers, but anything in particular?
I want people in Hull to feel that I've done justice to our city, because it's City of Culture year, and when my publishers got in touch and said, now's your chance to, they said, would you like to write a Christmas book? And I thought, well, it's got to be about Hull, where else could it be? And I wanted it to be set in our City of Culture year, starting, in the last quarter of City of Culture. So that's what I'd most like, really, is for people to read it and think, God, it all sounds a bit good, doesn't it?
It is, it's perfect, because it's set now, as I remember, isn't it? It is.
Yeah,
set
it starts next Sunday.
Yeah, I remember when I was reading, it was kind of weird for me, because I got the advanced copy and I'm thinking, all right, it's a futuristic novel set in, I think I read it back in August, and it was like, futuristic. I think it really works to do that, because it's not often we get to read a book where it literally is set at the moment that we read it.
Yeah.
Not everyone does that, do they?
No, it's quite hard to pull off, I think.
I agree, because I suppose if you're trying to reflect the world around you, we don't yet know what that world's going to be.
Do you know, I heard the other day that they're moving the Arctic course there.
Yeah.
No, you can't move the Arctic course. Thank goodness they're not moving it yet. It's not moving until after I need it to still be there. I was just, it was the most self-centered thing. Everybody saying, oh, isn't that exciting? They can't move it, that's not fair. It's in my book and it needs
You'd have to go and chain yourself to it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you can't move it till the end of December. There you go.
You should have done a bit of a 1984 maybe and made some predictions as well.
Oh, that was a nice idea. Yeah.
Oh, should we add that? See if you publish
Yeah,
just add
I'll
that in. I want to
just
have
sneak
some
in a few
predictions
extra.
now.
Well, I did predict a very, very cold Christmas, so you never know. I might
Let's
get the
see,
weather
let's
right.
hope.
Fingers crossed
Yeah,
for a white
fingers crossed.
Christmas.
Obviously, the reviews so far that I've seen, and certainly for all your other books, have been amazing. How do you deal with the bad reviews? Because we're both a member of a book group, aren't we, called the Facebook Book Club, which is a huge group. And the lady who runs that, she got a load of writers to read out the worst reviews.
Which one did you read?
I did the one where someone said about one of mine that Amazon should do 0 stars because then they would have given me 0. Which one did you do?
I've not done it yet, but it's the one that just says, complete waste of time, worst book I've read so far. And I really like that they've kind of generously left room for the possibility that one day they might find a book that they hate even more than mine. It's just so far that really makes that review for me.
You should message them and say, my new book's out. It might be
this one's even worse.
It might be worse than the other one. Yeah, you should do that, definitely, because there's something really... I think it's the only way to deal with the 1 and the 2 star ones. But I tell you what, I don't know about you, it hurts more when they're intelligent 1 and 2 star.
Yeah, somebody just saying, oh, this was a bit crap, or didn't arrive on time. That's the worst thing when they're reviewing the process of getting the book rather than the actual book. It came a day late.
It doesn't fit on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
Somebody once put that. It doesn't fit, it's too big for the bookshelf.
No way!
1 star. Not of mine.
Brian got a 5 star and it said it arrived exactly on time and the packaging was brilliant.
I like that, we can have more of that. I would enjoy
that's
that.
still a 5 star.
So what book are you working on now? Because you mentioned earlier about the one, and I know about this because we've discussed this a lot and I'm really excited. Yes. This is the one where you disposed of 40,000 words.
Yeah, that's the one. I had a big tantrum at 40,000 words in and threw it away. But yeah, it's called Underwater Breathing and it's set in, you know those villages on the east coast that are sort of gradually crumbling away into the sea? It's set in one of those and it starts on the night of a massive storm where a brother and sister are hiding out in the bathroom while their parents have a massive row downstairs. And they're playing this game called Underwater Breathing where they take it in turns to lie in a bath full of water and hold their breath underwater for as long as they can, basically as preparation for the day when their house falls into the sea so they'll be able to breathe underwater. And then the next morning when the boy Jacob wakes up, his mum and his sister have vanished. And his dad says, sorry, it's just us now, son. And it's sort of the story of what happens after that and where the mother and the sister went and why.
Wow, I'm really intrigued. I've just realised again the water element in yours every single time.
Yes.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say too much about The Winter's Child, but the beach hut, obviously.
Yeah, that's right by the sea.
And Summer We All Ran Away is back in the big house by the sea.
Yeah, it's on the other side of the harbour.
And then children in baths holding their breath.
Yeah, I'll see you later. Thank you for coming. Thanks so much for coming. I think, having been raised in Hull and also in Cornwall, where my dad's from, I'm not really comfortable when I'm too far away from the sea. Like if I get kind of like Nottingham or Birmingham way, where's the water? Where's the sea? It's not right.
Yeah,
so
I think it's in all of us, isn't it?
Yeah, I think certainly being raised in a port city, it doesn't feel right not to be near water. You have to have. At least need an escape route or something.
Yeah. So the next one, can we expect that next year?
Yes.
That was a bit of a...
That's because I'm panicking a little bit because I said I'd turn my first draft in at the end of this month.
Oh, you've got 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
How many words have you...
I have nearly finished the first draft.
How many words are you at?
120,000-ish. It's a bit of a beast, though. It'll cut down.
That is a beast. So...
it'll cut. I discovered quite early on in my writing career that I can cut my manuscripts down by at least 20% without even breaking a sweat, because obviously 1 in 5 words that I write is just not needed at all, really. Which is a bit depressing. But,
so do yours all land initially as big ones?
Yeah, they always start out big and cut down. So the Summer We All Ran Away, I think it started at 100 and came down to 86.
Yeah.
The Beach Hut, I think it started at about 120 and came down to about 100 or something. So, yeah.
Oh. That's a bit scary. I kind of edit as I go, you see.
I've tried that way, but I found I get on better and I can get through it
Yeah.
faster if I just sort of shut my eyes and run to the end.
You literally vomit the book out.
Pretty
and
much,
then-
yeah.
And then sort of pick out
Yeah,
the things and
pick
the
out
carrots,
carrots.
as we say, don't we?
Oh, we're so gross. Why does anybody come and hear us talk? We're just repulsive, really.
It's terrible. Love those juicy metaphors. Would you like to do another reading, and then maybe we're going to see if anybody's got any questions?
Oh, yes. What shall I... Susanna maintains a blog that's sort of talking about what she's experienced and sort of her processing it. So this is an entry that she wrote called Life Without Hope. Sorry, it's called Parallel Lives on her blog, Life Without Hope. Today should have been my and John's wedding anniversary. So many years. If we'd made it by now, I would have spent significantly longer as John's wife than as my own separate self. If we'd made it, I wonder what we would have done to celebrate. Perhaps we might have gone on holiday, just the two of us. Joel would have been about 18, just finishing his A-levels, and probably more than happy for us to go away without him for a few days. But perhaps we would have preferred to bring him with us. Perhaps he would have preferred to come along. The last holiday of his childhood. Instead, we're spending it apart from each other. It's heartbreakingly sad, but I can't pretend to be surprised that our marriage didn't survive Joel's disappearance. We were so closely knit, the three of us. It would seem wrong for John and I to carry on together in the absence of the very best part of us. I sometimes think about the theory of parallel universes. Perhaps somewhere there's another world where another John and Susanna are celebrating right now. Perhaps they, or we, are waking in a little hut with a grass roof by a white beach lapped by a blue ocean. Perhaps we, or they, are on top of a mountain we've just climbed over a series of laborious days, me sandwiched between John and Joel as we pose for a picture. Or perhaps John couldn't get the time off and instead they're simply planning to go out for an expensive meal. I could spend my time envying these parallel universe couples, but I don't. Because if there are universes where the three of us are still together, there must also be many others where we were never together at all. There must be worlds where John and I never met in that tangle of bodies on the dance floor. Worlds where he lost my phone number, or where he met someone he liked even more, and so he never called. Worlds where we didn't make up after arguments, or met other people, or just drifted apart over time. There must be worlds where we never became parents to Joel. There were so many ways it could have gone wrong for us. We might have balked at the courses we had to take, or become daunted by questions about coping with a child with additional needs or behavioural challenges, and decided adoption wasn't right for us after all. A wrong word on a wrong piece of paper, and we might have been passed over, and the astounding gift that was our son might have been given instead to another couple. And while I know in my head we would have loved any child we were lucky enough to adopt, just as fiercely as we loved Joel, my heart doesn't believe it. Joel was our son. He was perfect. Our time together was perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. And if the price of that is that I will spend what should have been my wedding anniversary alone, at my computer, crying as I write, that's a price I'm more than willing to pay.
I think you should try and outdo the gypsy though and live till you're 97, definitely.
Ah, possibly.
I was going to say and then tell her, but she'll probably be long gone back then.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how old she was at the time, but this was,
And how old were you?
16.
Oh, so she'll be long gone when you're 97.
Probably. I don't know. Maybe she's going to live to 138, you never know.
I think predictions are fascinating though, aren't they? They really are. I've had a few that were scarily accurate. They weren't the typical where they say, oh, there's somebody with the letter K, there's somebody this, that were mind-blowingly accurate. We went to see a psychic once, and when I walked in the room, first of all, she straight away said about my daughter and the diabetes and all the details and stuff like that, where you think, gosh, I should research this. But then I suppose with social media now, it makes us a bit more suspicious because you're going to go and see a psychic, all they'd have to do is possibly find you on Facebook and they'd know everything about you, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think it's sort of become easier to get the information that could fool people.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I think people have become more sceptical.
Yeah, and the sad thing is those that, because I personally believe that some people are, we'd probably never believe them anymore, would we? It's like, I don't know about, I often think if Jesus ever came now, at the second coming, we wouldn't believe him.
Yeah, that's an interesting
what I
question.
mean? I think
we have the capacity for faith that is needed.
If he came and he did tricks and with wine and things, we just wouldn't believe it, would we? We'd just think he was Darren Brown.
That's the strange thing about, not that I'm comparing Darren Brown to Jesus, I should say that would be obviously not right, but the strange thing about Derren Brown is that the more he says, I can't do this, the more you feel that he can. And that's one of the things that fascinates me, is that I find Derren Brown to be, I've seen him do things that I can't explain him, because he said, of course there's an explanation. Of course I can't read your mind. Of course I can't predict the future. It's all a trick. It almost feels more real.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm just thinking, how does he do what he does?
I don't know. He's a witch. That's my best explanation. He genuinely is a witch. But
And so therefore, in a way, he is psychic.
Well, that's the thing, and that's what Susanna is sort of dealing with all the way through the book, is what is more likely, that I am making this up out of my own head, or that this is really happening. And I suppose in a lot of ways that's kind of what writing is like. They both seem equally ridiculous to me. The idea that I invented Susanna's story. I mean, no. There's no way I could do that. How could I possibly do that? But then again, is it any more likely that somehow in some universe somewhere these things happen, that I just happen to channel them at the right moment?
You know, when you finish your books, for example, do you still think about the characters and imagine what they're now doing, and that's how much you believe in them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of them won't tell me. Some of them are very, very private about it, but I know that they're out there somewhere.
Doing those things,
Yeah.
Yeah. Has anybody else got any questions?
Hello, Ben.
It's a bit of a typical one, but if you were, if like you hadn't been found by like a publisher, like your first book hadn't been published, where do you think you would be right now?
I'd still be writing. That's one thing that I would definitely still be doing. I think the first book I can remember finishing was when I was 15. And it was dystopian science fiction, because I was 15, so of course it was. I remember finishing, that was the first one that I finished. And I wrote it on a Courier typewriter. And this is going to sound like such a little orphan Annie story, but it's true. I didn't have any typing paper, so I used to steal exercise books from school. Sorry, my friend who's a copper's in the room. I'm sure you've got bigger fish to fry than me nicking exercise books 13 years ago.
I think it's statute bar now.
That's all right. And I used to take the staples out and get the pages out and kind of like get an ultra long bit of paper and type on those. And I believe she said it sounded like I was building ships in the room, because it was so loud, this typewriter.
Have you still got those papers with the typing?
I haven't, no, but I've got a typewriter that is just the same as that one. And it's got the first sentence of my first book.
That's so misery, isn't it? The typewriter, the clunky typewriter.
Yeah.
And the shining, when he's typing, on the...
Oh yeah, on the typewriter. Yeah, I think we did lose something when we switched to word processors.
Because they're proper typewriters.
We gained a lot as well, but proper typewriters where you get that noise and that physical aspect.
Tipex in there to do the errors.
Oh yes, yeah, it made editing a lot more daunting, didn't it? But yeah, I always wanted to be a writer, and that was kind of my plan. And then I went to university, and God, if you ever want the stuffing knocked out of you, just spend 4 years studying Jane Austen. And you're like, no, I'm not in her league. There's no point trying. But I never really stopped writing. I just sort of wrote in secret, and I think in the end, all my friends ganged up on me, and I wrote this collection of short stories, and they all ganged up on me and said, "Oh, you have to try and get this published." So I entered one contest, which is a pathetic submission strategy. I did not deserve what happened next. One whole contest, that was like my entire strategy. And I found out I won because you Facebooked me and you said, "Are you the Cassandra Parkin that's just won the Scott Prize?" We weren't even friends by that point, were we? I think we both knew, we had a mutual friend, and we were both on the same thread talking about, I don't know, kids club or something. And we said, "Oh, by the way, you the Cassandra Parkin that just won the Scott Prize?" Am I the Cassandra Parkin that just won the Scott Prize? And then I was. It was the most ridiculous way to find out, but.
It's random, isn't it? I know. Yeah. What a nice way for us to meet, though. I think in a way to meet because I knew you'd won something.
Yeah, that was pretty special. But yeah. So then I remember I burst into tears. And I rang my mum and said, "Mum, I think I'm going to be a writer." And she said, "Yes, I know." So I told her, I was like, "Oh, duh! Of course you are. What else did you think you were going to be?" And I was like, "Oh, okay then." That wasn't quite the shock that it might have been. But.
Anybody else?
Hey, Max.
So, when you do write, how long does it take you to write a book, and how much do you write a day?
That's a really good question, and I never know the answer because I never know when I'm counting from. When I'm working on a first draft, I normally do 2,000 words a day. And sometimes that's 2 hours, and sometimes it's into, until I think I'm going to die from it. But I have to stick to that discipline. And then after that, there's the editing process. And to be honest, I mean, that could just go on. I never really feel like I've finished that. I just need. It's like pistachio nuts. There's just no logical end. I just need someone else to take them off me and say, right, you're finished now. So I kind of have to just, have a date when my editor wants to see it, and then that's it.
Pistachio nuts.
Yeah.
I'm laughing. That's so random. For me, it's hobnobs. But go on.
Yeah, but there's just like that thing in your life when someone else needs to stage an intervention and say, this is now over, and we're doing the next thing. But yeah, I could just sit there editing and eating pistachio nuts until I'm 95, in fact. So yeah, that's the bit that can go on forever.
97.
97, that's a new target. So yeah, it probably takes about sort of between 6 and 18 months, depending on what my deadlines are like, really.
Not that long. I'm surprised about the 18
The first one
months.
took about 18 months because it was my first one, so nobody was on my case.
Exactly.
Saying,
I presume now you've got to be faster than that.
oh yes,
Yeah.
underwater breathing. I have to turn in at the end of this one.
And is that just the first draft, as in they will expect that isn't fully
I think
polished?
Lauren's aware that it's not going to be, a fully functioning book.
And so when you do that, your publisher then, do they at that point send you general edits and suggestions before they do, the really, really precise one? Is that how yours works?
Generally speaking, Lauren will have a look and sort of say, these are the things that probably need working on.
Okay.
And we'll kind of go from there, really. But I have to say, I mean, I don't know if you've had the same experience with a render, but I was expecting being editing to be horrible. I thought I was going to hate every second of the process and it was going to make me cry and I'd have to fight for what I wanted. And I will admit I did cry over a semicolon once, but apart from that, I know, it was ridiculous.
That's a poem, isn't it? I cried over a semicolon.
And yet still they paid me, which was decent. But yeah, generally speaking...
Please write that poem, those 2 lines.
I cried over a semicolon.
And then Lisa still paid me.
Lisa still paid me. But yeah, I think that the shock for me was realising that my publishers are on my side. And they want it to be a good book just as much as I do.
Yeah.
And
We're all in it together, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, which is sort of... I think before you get that break, it does feel like it's you against the world, doesn't it? But then once you're kind of in, you're like, well, of course we're on the same team, and of course they want the best for my book. And that's the most lovely thing, knowing that there's this whole team of people that have looked at all the books that they see, hundreds every week, and said, this is the one that we're going to go for. It's quite humbling, really.
I admire what they do, because I must admit I couldn't do that. I have to be the one writing it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine
having the judgment
tinkering
to
with
see
somebody else's book.
Yeah.
No.
And the other thing is that they're kind of all in a way that, neither of us are really yet. That they're betting their mortgage on the quality of our books.
Yeah.
That's
we have the easy side, don't we?
Yeah.
They do the work. We just write it.
We just turn up. Talk about pistachio nuts.
Hobnobs.
Picking out the carrots.
That was a good question though, definitely.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Hey, George.
Do you ever find yourself having to change characters because you're projecting yourself or someone specifically onto them so much?
Oh, that's such a good question. Actually, Ben asked me a similar question last time. And he said that, do you ever have anybody real in your books? And I said, no, I'd never do that, it'd be very unprofessional. And Ben started laughing. And I said, what are you laughing at? And he said, Mum, he said, don't you realise Marianne in Lily's house has got Becky's hair and Becky's wardrobe and Becky's taste in
Make her do a spin again. It really
No, I'm not going to make Becky do a spin.
Oh.
I do have to be careful because I sometimes sort of start off with people as a starting off point for a character, and especially if it's somebody who's not very nice, I have to kind of make sure that I've buried. I don't ever want people to read the book and think, oh.
Especially give them a name that rhymes with the name of the real person or something like that, or the same initials.
Although I will say that there is a name check for Krista in this book. D.C. Wood appears briefly in The Winter's Child because Krista was my police consultant and I couldn't have written the book without it. She's very lovely, as are you. So yes, that's one time when I've unashamedly put an actual real person in my book, just to say thank you for making my book happen. Make that book happen.
Was right.
No, if there's any mistakes, it's definitely me.
Have you put any real names in?
There's real place names. There's no actual real people in the book apart from Krista. DC Wood.
I feel a bit worried now.
No, it's all right. She's only in a small scene, but she's important in the scene. So no, it's just real place names. I've never actually used a real famous
Not
person.
Tracy Fenton yet.
No, not yet. Actually, yeah, Tracy Fenton is. She founded the book club, the book club on Facebook, and I think Tracy Fenton turns up quite often in book club authors' books.
She does. It's really weird because I think in the future when readers look back at say the books from this era, they're going to be like, who the hell was that Tracy Fenton?
She's got a dozen books.
She was a social worker in my last one.
Yeah, she was, wasn't she? She's had that. She's like Miss Rabbit on Peppa Pig, isn't she? She's had a lot of jobs.
I know.
And you have a character, Bob Fracklehurst, who has your sister's name.
Yeah.
But it's a man and he's a taxi driver.
Recurring. He's in every book, apart from How to Be Brave, and I wish I could go back and edit.
And have
because
Bob
there
in
was
there.
a taxi driver that I
Yes.
didn't name.
Yes.
So I like to think
no, he's in there then. He's just not shared his name.
he's in every one and he gets
Takes you to the
a
hospital.
bigger part each time.
Ah.
The one I'm writing now, he is integral to the plot this time.
Oh, really?
For the first time. And he gets out
Is
of the
that
taxi
Stargate?
this time. Yeah. He's integral to the plot.
Oh, exciting.
I like that technique, and I took that from Stephen King, because apparently what he used to do, and I remember it well, I haven't read his books for years, but I used to devour them as a teenager. He would refer to other characters from other books in each of his books,
Yeah.
so the whole world was more real that he'd created.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that.
That's a
'cause-
bit like Disney films. They always put
Yeah.
an Easter egg in.
Yeah.
don't they?
yeah,
I do have
Different
Easter eggs hidden in my books, actually, that connect all the dots, but
yeah.
nobody but me and possibly my brother would ever spot any of them.
Ah,
But yeah,
like
my
a
books
treasure hunt
my
then.
books all join up at the back as well. Yeah, they're all
Oh, I
part
love
of
things
so
like
many
that.
others.
It just does make the whole world more, the world that you've created
Yeah.
more real.
And I think that the task of hiding the Easter egg makes you more creative as well. I think it's good to have
Yeah.
the odd sort of ridiculous challenge.
I know what it was in one of them, I know the biscuit tin.
Oh yes, the biscuit
I know
tin.
about
Yeah,
biscuit tin. Was that the beach hut?
that was the beach hut.
I know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
Where,
Only because you told us.
yeah, but I'm going to tell the story because it still makes me smile. It was my grandma had a biscuit tin with Winston Churchill on it, and my brother and I really liked it when we were kids because it used to have the mini rolls in. So it was very special for us, this Winston Churchill biscuit tin. And it got lost after she died, and we cleared the house out. Obviously, you can't keep everything, and the Winston Churchill biscuit tin was one of the things that went. So I put it into the beach hut where my characters Finn and Ava, who are a brother and sister, lose their home and then sort of reform their own home. And Finn finds a Winston Churchill biscuit tin at this jumble sale and gives it to Ava as like a housewarming present. Says, "Look, it's our biscuit tin." I mean, it's not, but it kind of is. And my brother liked that so much that he scoured eBay and found me a Winston Churchill biscuit tin, the exact one. I don't know if it was my grandma's one, but it was the same design. And in it, he put every single biscuit that was in the beach hut, and there were a lot of biscuits in that biscuit tin. Then,
Is
yes.
that why we have that Winston Churchill thing in the kitchen that Becky always goes in when she's hungry for ginger?
Yes, that's the one. Yes, that is the Winston Churchill biscuit tin, your great-grandmother's biscuit tin that came back to us.
Anyone else?
Right, well, thank you, Cassandra, and
Thank
she will
you
happily
ever so-
sign
I
books
will,
over
yes.
there, won't she? And I really recommend that you all buy it. I really do. It's definitely a curl up in the winter book. It's wonderful.
And can I recommend in return, you want to get Louise's book, her latest book, Maria in the Moon, which is absolutely beautiful. I think your official launch is it next?
Oh yeah, 20th of October.
20th of October at
Waterstone.
Waterstone.
So everyone welcome to come to that.
Yeah.
Right, well, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you everybody for
Thank
listening.
you.
And Cassandra will happily sign books.
I will. Thank you ever so much.